I was on Barcelona's Barceloneta Beach boardwalk. Late afternoon sun hitting like a hairdryer on Max. This overconfident dad in cargo shorts, baseball cap, sunglasses still on, marched his family right up to the water like he was claiming it. He spread his arms at the Mediterranean and went, "Kids, look at that! The Pacific Ocean. Told you your old man would get you across it one day." His teenage daughter just whispered, "Dad, we're in Spain," like she was reporting a crime. The lifeguard glanced over, then quietly flipped his no diving sign as if to add no geography underneath. Spain, according to this dude's internal GPS, was somewhere between Disneyland and a cruise brochure. Madrid's La Latina Tapas Alley at night was glowing. Yellow street lights, clinking plates, that sizzling garlic smell everywhere. Next to me, an Instagram travel girl in a floppy hat was standing in the middle of the street, ring light on, doing a slow spin. She yelled to her phone, "So I'm in Barcelona right now, in like the famous tapas district of Spain, Madrid City," and did the little peace sign pose. The waiter froze mid-tray, trying to figure out which dimension she'd just described. A local grandma shook her head so hard her earrings did half a rosary. Somewhere in that alley, every map app on Earth felt a sudden, unexplained disturbance. Down in Seville's Cathedral Square at sunset, the stone was still warm, and the bells were doing that dramatic echo thing. This college bro with a backwards cap and a tank top that said Spring Break 2018 was squinting up at the Giralda Tower. "Yo?" he asked our guide. "Is this where they filmed Rome?" And then followed up with, "Like Julius Caesar's castle or whatever?" The guide smiled painful tour guide smile and tried to explain Seville, Moors, centuries, actual history. Bro nodded 3 times, then turned to his friend and whispered, "So yeah, this is like Spanish Rome, basically." Somewhere, every history teacher who ever graded him just took psychic damage. In Granada's Mirador de San Nicolas overlooking the Alhambra, the sky was pure postcard, and the guitar guy was doing heartbreak songs on low volume. Next to me, Wellness Karen in linen pants and a crystal necklace was live correcting Spain. Honestly, she told her friend, the Alhambra would have way better energy if they painted it white and added more natural light. The friend, poor soul, actually asked, "You mean this 1,000-year-old palace?" Karen nodded, serious. "Yeah, just open it up, maybe a skylight, feng shui." The guitarist paused mid-chord, like he'd just heard blasphemy in another language. Even the pigeons looked offended, bro. Valencia's Fallas Festival side street was packed with cardboard monuments that looked like Pixar movies having a nervous breakdown. A loud Texas guy in a massive cowboy hat was filming everything like he'd just discovered. Color. He pointed at one huge sculpture and shouted, "So they keep these here all year, right? Tourist attraction, boom, solved." The local, next to him, sighed and said, "They burn them." Texas guy laughed. "Yeah, sure, burn the $1 million artwork. That's good business, partner." When the local added, "Tomorrow." The cowboy finally went quiet, like someone had just told him barbecue was illegal. Optimizing profit margins doesn't hit that hard when your profit literally becomes smoke. On Bilbao's riverside path near the Guggenheim, the titanium curves were glowing in that weird silver sunset way. A retired rich couple, both in matching pastel sweaters draped over their shoulders, stood staring at a giant spider sculpture. The husband leaned in and said, "Yeah, is this, from Lord of the Rings?" Then immediately followed with, "We should buy a smaller one for the garden." The guide explained it was a world-famous sculpture about motherhood and memory. The wife squinted, nodded like she understood exactly zero, and whispered, "Would look so cute by the pool, though." Somewhere behind them, the museum's entire curatorial staff just collectively rolled into the river. Up on a cliffside cove in northern Majorca, the water was that impossible turquoise that makes you question your life choices. A TikTok travel expert with a tiny microphone and way too much confidence walked to the edge, filming a vertical rant. Spain, she announced, is basically just one big Ibiza, except this part is like baby Ibiza. A local fisherman sitting on a rock muttered, "This is Mallorca," in the soft voice of a man who's corrected this every summer since Nokia phones. She smiled at him, nodded, then turned back to camera. Locals here on Ibiza are so chill. The sea didn't say anything, but the next wave absolutely tried to take her tripod. Ibiza's old town harbor at dusk was full of calm boats and unbothered cats, not the chaos people imagine. Patriot uncle, wearing an American flag polo and socks with tiny eagles, stood on the dock with hands on hips. Back home, he told anyone breathing, we'd have 3 jet skis, 4 bars, and live music on this water by now. A bartender polishing glasses shook his head and said, "Here we have, quiet." Uncle frowned like someone had taken away his fireworks. "What's the point of a harbor," he asked, "if you can't hear it from 3 miles away?" Spain, according to him, was just America with a broken volume knob. Santiago de Compostela's main pilgrimage square was all backpacks, dusty boots, and people quietly crying in a good way. A backpack bro with a bandana and a neon water bottle plopped down next to me, looking confused. "So wait," he said, "people actually walked here? Like, on purpose? For days?" When I nodded, he blinked, then admitted, "I thought the Camino was just a train line with a fancy name." A group of exhausted pilgrims nearby just stared like he'd insulted every blister they owned. The cathedral bells chimed, and even they sounded like they were trying not to laugh. Toledo's medieval stone bridge over the river looked like it had a permanent filter on it, all soft and dramatic. A cruise tourist in a bright orange lanyard and cruise-branded hat stopped mid-bridge, turned to her husband and said, "Honey, this looks just like that set from that one dragon show." The local guide gently offered, "This bridge is older than your country." She blinked, processing, then smiled. Wow, they really went all in on the medieval aesthetic here. The river kept flowing underneath, carrying centuries of history and exactly 0 streaming subscriptions. In Cordoba's orange tree courtyard outside the Mesquita, the air smelled like citrus and old stone and quiet rules. A movie fanatic in a superhero t-shirt pointed at the arches and whispered, "This is where Zorro fought, right? Or was that the other cathedral?" The guide, who had clearly seen things, replied patiently, "This is a mosque cathedral, not a movie set." The guy nodded thoughtfully, then turned to his girlfriend and said, "Still, feels like a discount Hogwarts. Kinda cool." Every column in that courtyard somehow managed to look tired at the same time. San Sebastian's Pinso Street in the Old Town was a wall of tiny snacks and bigger decisions. A bargain hunter with a calculator app open on his phone was doing tapas like it was a tax audit. "So these little things are, what, €3 each?" he asked, horrified. The bartender said yes, and the guy announced, "Back in Vegas, I get a whole buffet for this price." A local next to him shrugged and said, "Here you get taste instead of regret." The tourist squinted at his plate like it owed him a financial apology. Rhonda's cliffside viewpoint above the gorge looked like somebody dropped a postcard, and it became 3D. Freedom Guy, in a sleeveless shirt that literally said, "No rules, just vibes," climbed right over the safety rail. His friend whispered, "Dude, there's a sign." And he replied, "Signs are just our suggestions, bro." A local old man sitting on a bench, watching the whole circus, shook his head and muttered, "Gravity is not a suggestion." A gust of wind hit hard enough that Freedom Guy suddenly discovered the concept of boundaries. In Pamplona's old town backstreet, off-season and quiet, you could still see bull statues and red scarves in every shop. Complainer Dad with a camera strap across his belly looked extremely disappointed. "So, no bulls today?" he asked the shopkeeper. "No running, no danger?" The shopkeeper explained gently that the festival is only 1 week a year and has issues. Dad sighed. So we came all the way to Spain? For vibes? His teen son looked around at the beautiful old buildings and said, "Kinda nice, actually." That was the moment Dad realized you can't Yelp review a city for not almost killing you on schedule. On a black sand beach in Tenerife, Canary Islands, the waves were doing this slow, heavy roll, and the sand looked like ground-up night. A first-time traveler stood at the shoreline, staring at the dark sand like it had personally offended him. "So this is pollution, right?" He asked nobody in particular. "Like oil spill or something?" A local kid building a castle nearby looked up and said, "It's volcano." The guy nodded, pretended he knew that, then whispered to his girlfriend, "Don't touch it, it's probably toxic." The volcano in the distance just sat there, retired and disrespected. Girona's narrow stone stairway in the Old Quarter felt like walking into a time machine with better lighting. Wellness influencer in coordinated beige gym wear was filming a walk and talk about authenticity. Halfway up the stairs, she turned to camera and said, "You can really feel the Italian vibe here in Girona, Italy, Spain, whatever. Europe is one big soul." A local walking his dog paused, eyebrows at maximum elevation, then just kept going. Her followers would later comment, "Spain isn't in Italy." But for 30 glorious seconds, geography lost the influencer collab. Zaragoza's riverside promenade facing Basilica del Pilar was glowing gold in the evening, full of quiet couples and slow walkers. Minimalist adventurer with one tiny backpack and very big opinions stared at the basilica's towers. "Honestly," he said, "religion's fine, but they could sell so many apartments in that airspace." His friend blinked. "You want penthouses on the church?" He shrugged. "You keep the bottom for prayers, boom. Passive income for God." A nearby old lady crossed herself in a way that definitely included his entire financial plan. On a rocky coastal trail on the Costa Brava, waves were smashing against cliffs like they had something to prove. Florida man variant in neon swim trunks and flip-flops was hiking the trail like it was a mall. He pointed at a warning sign with a falling rock symbol and said, "Oh cool, they got cartoon art here." When a small rock actually slid down nearby, he jumped and yelled, "The mountain's attacking me, bro!" The trail didn't answer, but the next gust of wind did knock his souvenir hat straight into the sea. Nature saw the flip-flops and made an executive decision. Segovia's plaza under the Roman aqueduct felt weirdly casual for something that old like history just hanging out. Business consultant in a tailored travel blazer looked up at the arches, calculating. If they put shops in those lower arches, he said, you'd have insane foot traffic. Monetize the infrastructure. The guide explained gently that it's, a priceless, ancient monument. He nodded, unfazed. Heritage retail, he insisted. Think Roman Starbucks. The stones remained stubbornly unbranded, surviving yet another bad pitch deck. Cadiz's windy seaside promenade had waves slapping the wall and seagulls yelling like unpaid interns. A honeymoon couple walked by, matching straw hats, her holding a tiny selfie tripod like a sacred object. She spun around and gasped, "Babe, this looks exactly like that one Caribbean cruise port, but older and less cruise." He nodded, deeply wise, and replied, "Yeah, it's like off-brand Florida." An old man fishing nearby let out the slowest, saddest laugh I've ever heard. When you reduce a whole Atlantic city to Florida but tired, even the seagulls judge you. Mersha's quiet path through lemon orchards smelled like someone spilled lemonade on the entire season of spring. Overconfident Dad had returned in spiritual form, this time with a straw hat he definitely bought yesterday. He grabbed a low branch, pointed at the lemons, and announced, "Kids, this is where they grow Spanish oranges." The farmer walking past paused, stared at him, then simply said, "Limones," with the calm of a man who has corrected many dads. The kids looked at each other, then at their father, and you could see a tiny piece of his credibility fall off the tree. Almeria's old spaghetti western desert film set was all fake facades and real dust, the kind of place that makes your skin feel like sandpaper. Instagram Travel Girl 2.0 stood in front of a wooden saloon and announced to her followers, "So this is where they shot, like all the cowboy movies in Mexico." The guide coughed politely and said, "This is Spain." She nodded, absolutely not updating her caption. "Spanish Mexico," she replied. "Same vibe." Somewhere in Hollywood, a location scout woke up suddenly, feeling deeply offended and not knowing why. Burgos Cathedral Plaza in the chill evening air smelled like stone, rain, and the kind of bakery that ruins diets. College Bro 2.0 sat on the steps, staring up at the Gothic spires. "So this is Notre Dame, right?" he asked his friend. "Like the Spanish one?" The friend shrugged, already defeated by the day. A local teen nearby, skateboard under his arm, looked up at the cathedral, then at the guy, and just said, "Close enough for a long flight, I guess." That's Spain, according to clueless Americans. Everywhere is somewhere else, but the beer's still cold. Leon's small square outside a Romanesque church at night was quiet enough to hear your own brain reboot. Backpack Bro 2.0 dropped his pack, stretched his back, and sighed. "Man," he said, "I thought Spain was just beaches and parties." He looked around at the church, the old stones, the couple sharing a bench, the dog sleeping under a lamp. "Nobody on Instagram shows this part," he added, softer. A local sitting nearby smiled and said, "Good, then it stays ours a little longer." For once, the only clueless thing about the American was how much he was starting to get it.